So now that we have some more details and starting to get some physical presence for this network, what can we expect to see in the months ahead? Welcome back to Plug and Play EV. I'm Steve, and in this one we'll be looking at Ionna. Finally, some news from the network that's backed by 7 major automakers and some details on where they'll be based and what they plan to do next. So let's take a look at what might be the next major charging network in North America. So just a little background to Ionna for anyone who wasn't waiting for this news quite as closely as we were. This is a joint venture of 7 major automakers that was formed back in July, the summer of 2023, consisting of BMW, General Motors, Hyundai, Kia, Mercedes-Benz, Honda, and Stellantis. So that was some good news at the time. A lot of major automakers getting into the charging game at a point where it was looking like reliability was going to be a big concern. At the time in July, we didn't actually know the name of the network, and that was the next big news that broke. Radio silence for about another 6 months. Then early in February 2024, we got the name Ionna, the goal of 30,000 charging stations by 2030, and the news that we would have stations in the ground this year. So lots of excitement back in February. We did a whole coast-to-coast EVs on that topic and the charging networks that would be perhaps competitors. And since then, again, some radio silence. So kind of a couple of stealth mode periods for them. And then today, June 11th, we've got some more details and actually some physical presence about where this company will be based. So as I say, previously we knew the name of the network, Ionna. We knew that their team was initially based in Southern California, and that Seth Cutler, a former of EV Connect and the Chief Technology Officer, I believe, of Electrify America before that, was going to be the CEO. Some other names around the company as well, but for the most part, just the name, the CEO, and that goal of 30,000 by 2030. Now we hear that the company has moved and will be based in Durham, North Carolina. So there will be 203 jobs created at that HQ with an investment of $10.1 million going into the area. So big news. North Carolina, as we'll get onto, is really looking like a hotspot for EV charging especially, but a lot of investment going into that area around battery electric vehicles, and certainly getting money for battery production facilities, different OEMs going in to manufacture down there, and now obviously charging networks having a presence as well. We also have some new names and positions. So we have a gentleman called Derek Rush going in as Chief Financial Officer. Most interesting point there being that he is formerly of BP Pulse, which will actually be competing with Ionna, and how they may be one of the rising networks coming up to take some of the slack that Tesla may be leaving behind if they just choose to wind down the expansion plans a little bit. We have Riccardo Stamati, who I believe was already a name in the mix. He's from Stellantis and he will be the Chief Product Officer, so quite key there in customer experience and figuring out where this network will sit in the ever-increasing number of charging networks, charge point operators, hardware operators, that kind of thing that's really becoming a crowded marketplace in North America right now. And then the final name that they've given us, which I may butcher here, so apologies in advance if I do, Shekhar Muthukumar will be the Chief Operations Officer. So a few senior appointments there, and obviously the 200 plus jobs going into North Carolina, they'll start to bring them across as well. So good for the area, certainly good for the network, which now has a team being built out and clear goals for the rest of the year. We are still on apparently for a 2024 deployment. That gives them about this kind of next 6 months to really do something. So I have to believe that there are already plans underway for at least maybe a flagship site or something that is an initial partnership that will give them some locations to go in and get equipment in the ground pretty quickly. But there's other aspects to this announcement that are interesting. So let's keep on looking at North Carolina and how Ionna will make an impact there. So North Carolina, as I say, is becoming a bit of a hotspot for this kind of announcement. Only last week we had Kempower open their North Carolina facility, which is also in Durham, where Ionna will be headquartered. So big news for them, and it's interesting timing. I mean, you know, we won't draw too much from it initially, but Kempower certainly wants to make a name for itself here and start to build out that presence, to build on its reputation for solid hardware in Europe. Alpatronic is also down there. They're in Charlotte, North Carolina, so there's a kind of triangle of cities as I understand it, and there's a bunch of investment going in down there. There's a Toyota battery factory will be built down there. VinFast is going to be making its vehicles there. Now you have Ionna, Chempower. So there's a lot of news flowing into the area, and it's quite an important location, certainly becoming more and more important as you get more and more names. But obviously the biggest question initially is what hardware they might choose to use. And if you've got Chempower down there, Alpitronic right on their doorstep, and a bunch of others looking at that southeast kind of area, then you may be able to infer some decisions that they might take from that kind of connection. But also down in the southeast, where there's in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, a lot of different investment going in for not just battery electric vehicles and the charging that comes with them, but also semiconductors, a lot of the technology around and the industries that support electrification, energy storage. All of this is really starting to build a very compelling economic case for electric vehicles and wider electrification efforts. One other aspect of Ionna is that they were very clear they would be open to new partners. So we don't know if that's more in the Mercedes-Benz networks, in that they have Bucky's, Simon Properties, that kind of thing. So they have retail partners and property partners who they will start to build out with. Or if they're inviting other automakers into the fold. You have all kinds of potential partnerships, certainly some that are still outside the fold of any of the major networks, the likes of Toyota perhaps, who have worked a little bit with EVgo recently, but still have that kind of standoffish approach to wait and see when EV adoption starts kicking in. They may want to come in at some point, and that's a lot of money there. Nissan has in the past done a lot of work with EVgo. If they're starting to resurrect their fortunes, they maybe want to be involved. Ford having its own arrangement with Tesla, but maybe, you know, in the wake of Tesla kind of rethinking the supercharger approach and streamlining that team, they'll want to hedge their bets and see where they end up. But you start to see a very compelling organization perhaps to partner up with, and you don't have to, it doesn't have to be the be all and end all. You'll still have the supercharger network out there, you'll still have Rivian with its adventure network. So there are different pieces in play here, but this could become quite quickly an important going concern on the North American charging landscape. At the moment, all we have is numbers and names, so we'll wait to see what actually starts to go in the ground and where the pins appear in the map. But it's a positive development at a time when charging has been the biggest part of the conversation. You're getting a lot of pushback against a lot of these programs, whether it's EV adoption not being enough, federal funding not going in quickly enough, whatever it is. This is a private funded, well-backed, lots of automakers behind it, and there's going to be a lot of experience in there. So it's going to be really a positive addition at the very least to the public charging conversation, and hopefully physically pretty soon the public charging reality. So just a quick one, as I say, because we weren't going to be able to talk about this for another week or so here until we have another coast-to-coast EVs. Hope this news was useful to you. Let me know what you think of Ionna down in the comments, what the latest news means. Are you in the North Carolina area and very happy with all this EV charging action that's happening in your area? Anything else we missed here? What kind of investment are you seeing in the region as a whole, the Southeast, as a quite big player now in the EV charging space and electric vehicle manufacturing? And what are your hopes for Ionna? Do you expect to see this become a very slow rollout, not too much this year, maybe getting slowly into 2025? Or is this now all hands to the pump and they are going to try and become a major player in the charging network within the next 6 to 12 months? Let us know down in the comments, and we'll look forward to another chat about Ionna very soon. Thanks for watching.